Good morning, staff. As you all know, I am head of the Maths department, and in today's meeting, we're just going to talk about how mathematic concepts and skills can be developed across the curriculum. We're first going to talk about what are the Australian curriculum general capabilities. Well, I did some research, and in the curriculum, there are 7 general capabilities. They are the key to preparing young Australians to successfully strive as a human being in everyday life and in the workforce of the 21st century. The 7 general capabilities include literacy, numeracy, ICT capability, critical and creative thinking, personal and social capability, ethical understanding, and intercultural understanding. Okay, so how are the general capabilities addressed? They are addressed throughout the content of all learning areas. They are identified where they are developed or applied in the content descriptors, where they offer opportunities to add depth and richness to students' learning via content elaborations, and we as teachers are expected to teach and assess general capabilities to the extent that they are incorporated within learning area content. In today's meeting, we are going to focus on one of the general capabilities, numeracy. Students become numerate as they develop the knowledge and skills to use mathematics across all learning areas, and at least one of the key ideas should come across one of your learning areas that you are teaching. The organising elements of numeracy, such as otherwise known as the key ideas, include using measurement, estimating and calculating with whole numbers, recognising and using patterns and relationships, using fractions, decimals, percentages, ratios and rates, using spatial reasoning and interpreting statistical information. Okay, so how the general capabilities support the development of numeracy. When the numeracy demands are identified across the curriculum, students have opportunities to apply and develop their mathematical knowledge and skills in other contexts. These opportunities allow students to recognise the interconnected nature of mathematical knowledge other learning areas and the wider world, and encourage them to use their mathematical skills broadly. Okay, so now focusing on the key learning area, PDHPE, how can you support the development of numeracy? Okay, so this was taken exactly from the Australian curriculum. It's the link to PDHPE and numeracy. So focusing on the numeracy demands, I've highlighted which ones are evident, which include calculation, estimation and measurement, spatial reasoning, interpret and analyse, using statistical reasoning, and patterns and relationship. I'll just give you a few moments to read this. So now focusing on the organising elements of numeracy, which numeracy demands in PDHPE are linked to them. So for using measurement, I thought collect and make sense of information, estimating and calculating with whole numbers, the same, recognising and using patterns and relationships, so identifying patterns in data to consider trends, draw conclusions and make predictions. I didn't find anything using fractions, decimals, percentages, ratio and rates, although I think that maybe when you're using a stopwatch or finding out data you could use them. It's just not evident in the Australian curriculum. And using spatial reasoning, so movement activities, developing concepts and strategies for team and individual sports, and interpreting statistical information, so to interpret and analyse health and physical activity information. So the key ideas which are evident to PDHPE are pretty much all except for using fraction and decimals, percentages, ratio and rates. So the ones that are evident are using measurement, estimating and calculating with whole numbers, recognising and using patterns and relationships, using spatial reasoning and interpreting statistical information. So this is just a conclusion I wrote of the key ideas in mathematics that are linked to PDHPE. So I've just written here that 5 out of 6 of the organising elements of numeracy are linked quite close to PDHPE. The curriculum identifies 5 of these key ideas through the numeracy demands, which is that paragraph which I just showed you. Although the key idea of using fractions, decimals, percentages, ratios and rates is not quite evident, I think during a PDHPE lesson this will come up, which will allow students to use and work on their mathematical knowledge and skills, as well as all the other organising elements of numeracy. So I've come up with 2 small activities that could be incorporated into a PDHPE lesson, and it's just how students can use and develop their mathematical knowledge, skills and strategies. You're more than welcome to use these. You don't necessarily have to, but it's just an example to show you. Okay, so this is lesson activity 1, creating patterns. This is for about stage 2, year 4. It's from the PDHPE syllabus, knowledge and understanding, and then games and sports. The content descriptor I've chosen is participates and uses equipment in a variety of games and modified sports, and linked to the organising elements of numeracy. So the content description links to the key idea of recognising and using patterns and relationships. This link is made when students use manipulatives such as sports equipment to make a series of patterns. So the maths content descriptor that links to this lesson is that it creates and that students create and continue a variety of number of patterns that increase or decrease and describe them in more than one way. So I've named this activity Patterns on the Pavement. It should take about 45 minutes. So students are put into 3 groups. In the playground there will be 3 different stations providing a different range of materials for students to make repeating patterns. So students will be given 15 minutes at each station. You don't necessarily have to use these materials, but I've just given an example. So station 1 could be natural materials that students could collect, so sticks, leaves, rocks. Then they can arrange them in patterns. Station 2, you could have nothing there. They could just use people in their group, so they could get people to sit, stand, lay, or sit, lay, or whichever pattern they come up with. Station 3, students use different pattern shoe soles. So you could just grab some old shoes, or they could use their own. They could dip them, and there'll be a bucket of water, so they dip the sole of the shoe in the bucket of water and print a pattern on the pavement. So they could do, like, for example, Sally's shoe, Billy's shoe, Sally's shoe, Billy's shoe, just like that. Okay, so lesson activity 2 is called Stop the Clock. It focuses on time in mathematics, and in PDHPE it focuses on moving. So it's focused for stage 3, year 5, and the content descriptor is that student refine and apply movement skills creatively to a variety of challenging situations. So the link to the organising elements of numeracy is that this activity links to the key idea of using measurement, as students use a stopwatch to measure and compare times. And the mathematics content descriptor I've gotten from the syllabus is that it uses stopwatch to measure and compare the duration of events. Okay, so this can be done at really any time during the day. It doesn't take long. It's about 20 minutes of the activity. It's really good because it lets students know how important fitness is and being active, and it also allows students to use materials such as stopwatch. So the activities, students will get in pairs, and each pair will get 1 stopwatch each. Using the stopwatch, students will time each other, how long it takes to sprint from one soccer post to the other, or from the start of the field to the end, can be adapted to the playground. And then students will will write their results in a table and compare who was faster.